2, 1. Good evening, everybody. I'm Grim Reaper, and with me, as always,
Cynical Squid.
and
And
Charred-
Perrythepig.
and and we got Charred Hope, who's introducing himself.
I like
What's
it.
up, Chard? How you doing, bro?
Good, you?
Doing all right, man. So, I'm gonna bring this up right off the bat because this is my favorite thing to hear you talk about and rant, and I'm gonna put you on the spot. But we got to talk about Timmy.
I told
Timmy
you
is
to
the
bury that. I was
no, no, no,
serious.
no,
You're gonna get
no.
me ranting right at the start. Oh my god.
Yes.
In the middle of one of my earlier streams when I first met Grim, I was up for like, I don't know, like a day and a half, and I went on a serious rant about how I was frustrated with how the developers developed this new way of balancing the game. And my way of explaining it was we line up a whole bunch of kids at the top of the stairs and we put t-shirts on them for each of the classes. We give them a helmet and we just heave that little bastard down the stairs. And the further he gets down the stairs, the more development he gets. And I'm tired. I can see Perry right now freaking out. I was using it because Primalist was making it where I literally couldn't play the game with frame rate drop. So I was raging that I literally couldn't play a class that I love. I really enjoy the class. I couldn't play it at all. I'm like, please, can we balance this? And they were so worried about, it seems like they were so focused on builds and not classes that I was getting extremely frustrated by it. And yeah, so I went on a rant about how I couldn't understand why they had this going for so long, and it's still there. I think some of it might be PC related for a lot of people, though. But yeah, that's why. That's where that came from.
And just to point out your list of accomplishments in every single tournament, it seems like every single tournament that we played in together at the start of like me getting to know you, you had something wrong with you. You played one tournament with like broke ribs, and then there was something else wrong with you a tournament before. I can't remember if you were like sick or what had happened.
Yeah, I've been sick for like the last, well, technically 2 years, but the last 3 months has been brutal. Around when I first met you, I shattered my ribs, so I played in that tournament. That's one of my better tournaments. I think I got fifth or sixth or something in that tournament, but that was brutal because I felt bad for everyone that was watching my stream because I had to keep pausing every 5 waves in the arena because I could barely sit and breathe in the stream. That was brutal. Then after that, I got pneumonia, and then I got COVID that put me in bed for 2 weeks, and then now I got diagnosed with blood clots in my legs from COVID. So that was my consolation prize: is you survived COVID, now you get blood clots. So I missed the Mage tournament because of that, and now I'm excited. Hopefully we're healthy, but I'm scared because now I can't leave the house for 36 hours or I'll get hit by a car or something. Horrible luck. So horrible luck. So I got all the windows boarded up. You know, we're gonna survive 36 hours. See what the hardcore tournament is, so I can actually play. Because I haven't got to play. I didn't get to play any of the softcore ones. I've been out for a long time.
This might be the most jarring introduction to a podcast we've ever had. It's like, welcome back. Here's our guest. I've been hit down the stairs and I caught COVID at the bottom, and now I can't leave home.
That
That was
about
my
sums it
trophy.
up.
I'm
Yeah.
now isolation means I'm scared to go anywhere for fear of what might happen to me.
And I think I misunderstood. You are the primalist? Is that what you were saying?
No. I'm starting to. Actually, yeah,
oh.
maybe. Maybe.
Good God.
I think I follow. All right, so let's get the rest of the introduction out of the way. So Chard, I've seen you streaming a couple times. I haven't tuned in myself, but I think I've seen you stream a couple different things at this point, right? I think I've caught you when you were doing D3 and League of Legends, among
Yeah, I
your
was
other
doing
games, right?
D3 multiple years. I was competing in that, and then in League of Legends, and messing around with a couple other games like Foxhole and just basic stuff like that. But the main one I did when I obviously started meeting all you guys was last Epoch. I was grinding that for quite a bit. I haven't played this patch as much. I've been playing a lot more League. But that's because I haven't been able to put a lot of time in. It's hard to sit in the chair when you're sick all the time. So.
Gotcha. So was Diablo 3 like your lead into last Epoch, or like how did you find this space?
D1, D2, way back when Diablo 1, Diablo 2 would have been my first games for playing for action RPGs. But as for video games, it was Counter-Strike. I played competitive for Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, and the Call of Duties, and then that led into streaming, and that's where I am now. But action RPGs is probably some of my favorite, as well as MOBAs and shooters. So that's the most of the stuff that I play on my stream is action RPGs, shooters, and MOBAs.
And
Sounds
just
good.
just to clarify for viewers, how terrible at League of Legends am I?
Oh, you're better than me, so I guess that means I'm a dumpster fire. That's awesome. So there's my bad luck rolling in. I'm like, he's 16
right.
and 4. I'm like 4 and 10. Like, thanks for pointing that out. We'll keep everything positive. We're all good. We all get gold stars.
It's one of those like opposites attract kind of things,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Please backtrack me. Please carry me. Good God.
Oh. You got any questions for him yet, Cynical?
So you said you haven't played this patch as much. So I'm gonna go ahead and get you started on your rant here because I was lurking in your stream earlier and you stopped yourself. So now you stopped yourself, and I'm proud of you for stopping yourself and saving it for the podcast. What is it about this patch specifically that you find yourself not as invested in last Epoch?
Well, this patch had a lot of hype. It looked really good. I love the basic implicits they added to the weapons. I thought we were going to get more unique builds, especially with the unique armor and weapons that were coming out, the new items. Thought they'll give us a lot of new builds, and it gave us some. New act kind of just didn't do it for me, especially with me playing a lot of hardcore. It just seemed like you were donating characters to the gods every 2 seconds, which was annoying. And so it got to be, well, okay, well, I'm not forced to do it. So I just do the standard axe thing, get the hell out and get to arena. Oh, look, I'm in arena and it's wave 5. And I just got billy clubbed to death by a level 5 act 9 monster. Awesome. Now I still feel like shit. So that wasn't so great. I love the design of the monsters. I think it all looks good. I think the zone looks good. I think it runs pretty smooth. So I love all that about it. I just felt like the depth for builds I didn't see. And it just felt like the stuff I'm still waiting on, I'm trying to patiently wait for. But where my rant came is I can't keep grinding the same content. When you play it as much as we do, like we play the game a lot, most of us do, right? When you start doing the same stuff over and over again, you have to find new builds or new creative ways to make it harder for yourself. And right now, I could keep pushing for that, but if they don't bring out content fast enough to feed us, like right now, they brought out this new content, and within 1 weekend, we had already smashed most of the content they added. The casual, maybe not as much, and that's great for them. But for content creators, where it's all about being first or streaming it or streaming the best builds, we eat up content so fast and go through their content so fast that if they don't, in my opinion, make it harder and more challenging for a solo player and also leading into multiplayer, make it harder, we're just gonna get not bored, but you know what I mean? Like we're gonna get stuck in a rut where it's okay. I'm playing the game where I'm half asleep. That's not good, especially in hardcore, where it's okay if I make a small mistake, I might lose my character, but it's just. The challenge of the monsters was how hard they were hitting and everything else. And then we started to complain and they started to nerf it. I'm like, no, actually leave it. Leave it where it's murdering us, because even though it sucks and it's kind of frustrating, it's still a challenge. If you make everything all the same, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but if you make everything all the same, it gets very boring very quick, or at least it does for me. That's probably the amount of time and hours and years I put into Diablo 3. You see the same monsters, the same bosses, the same drops. It gets to be half the time where we can scroll over an item and go, that's not an upgrade, without even having to pick it up. And I'm concerned that it seemed like the patch was going to be bigger, and maybe was in their eyes bigger, and maybe a lot of people maybe also thought it was bigger. But for me, it just seemed like a small patch. It seemed like those, I was most excited for just the base weapons with those implicit changes, because I thought there was a couple hidden ones that they had behind the scenes that would really give us unique builds. Now, I haven't played the patch enough to really pass like a legit opinion compared to you guys. Maybe you guys have found builds that I don't know yet. Normally I research it more, but I didn't see them at the start. I didn't see them after the first, I'd say, week of playing it, and that kind of frustrated me because it felt like a missed opportunity. And that really between that and being sick made it where I guess I'll wait a little bit longer. I'm not necessarily waiting for the next patch, but one of the big things that keeps me invested is playing the tournaments with you guys, and it just hasn't really interested me at all. So I'm kind of waiting.
So going back to the tournament, I believe the tournament that you played in where you broke your ribs, that was actually the Rogue Hardcore tournament, wasn't it? Was it the Rogue Softcore tournament that you had the broke ribs?
That was hardcore. Yeah, it was no, I can't remember if that was Mage or. Yeah, I was Rogue Hardcore, I believe.
And how much better do you think your performance would have been if you didn't have the broke ribs during that time?
Well, I got bad luck on. I had either lag or frame rate on my one big push there, and that probably would have put me top 3. I actually had better drops than I can't remember who won that tournament. It might have been Lizard, but I actually had better drops, so I had a better shot. But just if I was able maybe to focus or not have to take so many breaks, it was literally every 5 ways I had to take 2, 3, 4 minute breaks. So it kind of felt like I couldn't get any momentum going. But maybe I would have had a shot. That one, and what the hell other one was it? Necromancer, the Acolyte tournament. That was probably my best chance of winning, but that was the one where nobody banned Dreadshade and Golem. So I had the Punk's version of that ice on hit minion build, and I was literally walking through content. That was probably my best chance of ever winning a tournament out of all of them. But Rogue one, I might have had a bit of better luck if I wasn't in so much pain. So.
Yeah.
And I still haven't had any. I haven't had any really good showings since then. Actually, I wanted to play in the last couple because now like Perry's starting to play them now and stuff like that. I'm like good, because there was a bunch of people that were playing that I knew. I'm like, let's get more people in just in general. The numbers are better and also more competition. I love that. Let's get in all the good people. I want to play against the best people. Even if I don't think I can beat them, that's where I learn the most. That's where I have the most fun. And I did that from when I first got this game. Like, you guys have a lot more hours in the game than me. But the amount of hours that I logged in the first 2-3 months I got this game is insane. I think I put in like 500 hours or something like that since I got it, which is insane for only having it. I think now technically I've had it like 5 or 6 months, but I barely played in the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks. So I was doing it anywhere from 12 to 16 hours a day, and most of it was for going for tournaments and hardcore. So I was still bummed about that hardcore for the Rogue tournament, though. So, oh well.
So I'm excited to see that we have more hardcore people in the community, because like primarily I play like hardcore trade. I guess not trade, but hardcore permanent stash, whatever you want to call that as well. I guess I want to bring this up real quick because we're about to start the Vision GL's month of hardcore races for what's going to be happening on the weekends, which is what I'll be doing as well this upcoming weekend. I've actually heard people talk about, I think it was the 75 mono. People were like trying to figure out where the Chapter 9 monsters spawn. And it's funny that you mentioned the Chapter 9 monsters as well, because like they're really just like a total spike in difficulty compared to everything else. Like I'd like to have some kind of consistency, but like either tune them down or just tune everything else up, so that like it's not just, you know, autopilot dead, you know what I mean? But
Yep.
there's a monster that like uses shield rush or something, and it stuns you, and it does like half your health and damage. It's maybe Scalebane Bodyguard might be the name of it, and apparently
Something Bodyguard.
yeah, like it only spawns in like the 75 mono. So
It'll
people have been
almost
talking
one-shot
about,
you on the squish classes.
yeah, people have been talking about like for the hardcore tournaments, what if you, instead of holding on the right side for all the right side monos, what if you go up the left side instead, just to avoid that one monster type accidentally spawning in your echoes? Like it's really spooky.
That's a strat, but what
That's
if
a
you need to
strat.
drop out of that right side? Then you're hosed. What if you
Yeah,
need a unique
yeah,
drop out of that
you are.
side? Then
I
it's
was gonna
just,
say, like,
I
oh,
guess
yeah.
I'm fighting with a garbage bag taped to my chest. Awesome, but I don't have to worry about these mobs. Like, that's one way of going about it. Just get a brown paper bag and we're good to go.
I've heard that
Get my armor piece.
conversation. I've heard that conversation, like those strategies circling the last Epoch community. Like how are people gonna deal with those monsters? And it's like, I'm just gonna like cross my fingers and try to get lucky, because that's my approach to most things in life. But like, man, if you if you don't like that strategy, you are just like up a creek for this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, some of the classes are literally going to be boned. They're going to have to either do 0 damage builds where it's just they're a pin cushion and hope that they don't die, or just close their eyes, turn their monitors off, run straight, and hopefully get through the mono without getting murdered. That's going to be your only choice. Because some of these builds, I don't know, like they got damage, but they can't take a hit, and these mobs are savage. And they've toned them down some, haven't they? And they're brutal.
They have toned some of them down, but like even then, the things that are going to kill you when you get to the arena, it's like you're going to die to an Ember Mage, you're going to die to a Crystal Elemental. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I like it like that, but I would like it more if it actually felt like we had builds to counteract it a little bit. Right now, we're running around with, hockey sticks, trying to kill monsters that can murder us off screen. It's kind of rough. So I would like some either new items or armor or something to give us an option to deal with these. But I don't want them nerfed. I don't really want them toned down.
So
Speaking
of new items, this is a question for all of you, because like I know my answer, but I guess I might as well ask you too. Have any of you used any of the new weapon bases that got introduced in 083? We got a whole bunch of like new weapons and swords and maces and whatnot, new bases. Have you used them?
Start a fire, maybe.
I'm legitimately trying to think if I have or not, and I don't think I have.
Like +1 lightning skills. There's a necrotic penetration, 2-handed axes. There's a lot of stuff.
only thing I've used that's new, I think, is the dragon bone axe. I think that's one of the new items they introduced. I don't remember if it was in the last patch or not, but I've used it because it's got the bleed on it with the damage on it. The only thing it doesn't have, which honestly, there's another axe that has bleed chance on it, but it's better. It scales better because it has another affix on it, or another implicit. It's also got bleed duration on it. It actually beats out the dragon bone axe just by a very smidget if you have the exact same stats on it, just because of the bleed duration.
So there's a bunch of new like, I've been joking around recently talking about how few like attack based builds that I've actually played in last Epoch so far. But there are some weapons that I have used, but none of them are for attacks. I've used the new wand bases. Seem to like they pop up in my builds all the time. There's one that has chance to shock as an implicit, which is like, I've used that thing. It's pretty good. I've used a wand that has a mana implicit in order to get it like, to the 200 or the 300 mana threshold on a sorcerer build. And then I've also used, I think it's like the new high-end wand. It has like a up to 12% cast speed as an implicit. And like I've used all those things, but like, I've went back to the patch notes periodically to make sure like, have I done all the things that I was going to do a couple months ago when this patch came out, like 2 months ago. And I look at all those new weapon bases and like, I've never hit things. Like all those new maces and hammers and scepters and axes, like I haven't used a single one of them.
Is it because they don't interest you, or is it because you just don't
want to?
Because you play a lot of hardcore,
that might be
worried that you're going to get murdered if you walk up?
I don't know. I don't know. I just like, I don't know. I think a part of it is like a personal issue, because I don't really know how to play like an attack-based crit build. I'll play like an attack-based bleed build or like a poison build. I've done that, but like, what are you gonna do? Just like walk up to somebody, hit somebody with a stick, and then crit? It's like maybe that's the kind of build that doesn't really interest me.
Maybe not. Hopefully you crit. If it doesn't proc, then you're boned.
Yeah. I mean, that's most crit builds, right? And then you have crit avoid and dodge to deal with, but.
Also,
I've been enjoying playing damage over time builds. That is like my jam.
I was gonna say, Perry, the last time you played a melee build that I was watching your stream, you complained that you had to walk up to every mob. So,
was that with swipe? Was that with swipe primalist?
Yeah, the swipe primalist. You were like, man, this kind of sucks. I have to walk up to everything.
If I'm not murdering it off screen, I'm not interested.
Like, what if the monster is all the way over there? Would I be like walk up to him? What do you want me to use? Fury Leap? Come on, get out here.
Look, Fury Leap's so bad. I'm not even playing Fury Leap in my shaman right now on stream. Okay.
Fury Leap's fun, guys. You jump in the middle of a pack of mobs.
That's why I don't like
they murder you.
That's why I don't like Sentinel.
You don't like Sentinel?
Shield bash. No. I like it now. The patch actually is a lot better. I didn't like it when I first started playing.
What didn't you like about it? Hey, you know what was your intro to Last Epoch? Like, what was like your first build? What was your first introduction?
Rogue.
What
Rogue
were you
Blade
doing?
Dancer. Rogue Blade Dancer because I like. Well, actually, it was Rogue. My very first build, I went into Marksman, but I didn't know enough about the game, and leveling up as Marksman without the knowledge was brutal because it was like without using puncture and stuff like that was painful. It was not a fun experience. So I switched to Rogue Blade Dancer, and then I did Acolyte, and then I jumped in. My first really successful one in hardcore was doing the Avalanche Primalist. That's when I started complaining because in certain zones my frames would be like 5. So it got to be very risky. It's like, well, my damage better be good enough to kill these monsters because if I fall asleep at the switch or blink for a half second, they're going to kill me. And especially with the monsters now, I wouldn't even try that build now because I just get murdered instantly. But that was my introduction to the games with those classes. And those are the classes I like. Mage, Rogue, Acolyte, those are my favorite classes by far. I'm very interested in the Primalist. I like the concepts behind it and I'd love to play it. Like I love Shaman, but it just doesn't feel optimized to me. It feels horrible in my opinion. So
When you say optimized, do you mean like the frame rate thing, or do you mean
the frame
like
rate drop is one of the biggest issues, especially in hardcore. Dying to what feels like something you can't control at all is a horrible experience in hardcore. Softcore, it really doesn't matter. You just click and go again. But in hardcore, you might have 200-300 hours on that character, and losing your character that should be able to walk through content because all of a sudden you can't move sucks. It's almost as bad. Well, actually, it's in my opinion worse than lag or internet issues, right? Your internet drops out and you lose your character. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It just doesn't feel, some of the skills don't feel optimized at all. Right away, it's frame rate issues. On my end, it might be a little bit of graphical issues. My graphic card does need upgraded on my computer, so some of that I can blame on my PC. But it just doesn't seem to run as smooth as when I was first playing and running through content on Blade Dancer or playing minion builds. Like normally the more monsters you have on the screen, and the more pixelated, the more graphics you get or the more bursts you get, the more draw it is on your PC and the internet, right? And then the more graphical problems you have. Same as like playing Tempest Strike and stuff like that with Shaman. You want to crash your PC, you start getting 97 lightning bolts coming down, and your PC says, "Nah, I'm good. I'm taking the weekend off," and it crashes on you. So I like builds that can feel smooth while you're still able to do that burst. And that's part of the reason when I first started playing, I didn't like Sentinel. I felt like walking up to each monster or closing the distance when my distance closer was on cooldown was a miserable. It was like a prison sentence. It's like I dashed to 3 monsters, kill them, and then I'm like, oh, they're all the way over there? My shoes are undone, and I can't get over there very fast. It's just horrible. And meanwhile, you look at Blade Dancer, and they're dashing around like this and killing everything. It just looked like fun. But then again, I like ranged builds. So
Can I pitch a build to you?
Sure.
Just in case you want to try out Sentinel at some point, I would like to tell you about my favorite mastery in the game, which is Void Knight.
Oh, here we go.
If you what
Void
do you
Knight's the only
mean?
one I
Here
like.
we go.
Void Knight's the only one I like.
You know what? If you want to have a re-sparked interest in Sentinel builds, let me tell you about Devouring Orb. Okay. It's everything that you want. It's got lots of movement speed on it. You don't even need to use a movement skill if you don't want to. It off-screen stuff. It auto-targets stuff for you. You don't need to walk up to monsters individually. You just like walk through content, and then like your balls just spread out and kill stuff. Like it's. I'm gonna get you hooked.
I kind of feel like I'm being sold house insurance right about now.
I'm gonna. You know what? I think we need more Void Knight gamers in Last Epoch. I think I can convert you. I'll see what I can do.
Climb in. Don't worry about the mattress.
Oh, it's fine. Isn't it small? No, we call it cozy. It's fine.
Really though, like the Void Knight build Perry's talking about is actually like a ton of fun to play. Like it's the actual current Void Knight build I'm playing as well off stream.
Void Knight is the only subclass of Sentinel that I can play. The other ones, like if I play Forge Guard, I'd rather just uninstall the game and play Tiddlywinks with my grandmother or Solitaire. Or, I don't know, feed the cat that I don't own. I literally like poured my stuff and it's awful. I can't. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'll go empty the dishwasher. I can't play that class at all. But Void Knight's not too bad. But just the Sentinel in general is probably my least favorite out of the 5. But like I said, I'm partial to ranged and like crazy bursty classes. So mage, acolyte, stuff like that. I like those.
So are
classes.
you? Have you done anything with like damage over time or ailments or?
Yep,
so
bleeds are fun. Poison Lich I tried and was fun. Although losing 3 hardcore characters, not paying attention to your poison aura being on, that was a miserable experience on stream that we will not discuss. Almost lost the keyboard on that one, being stupid. But either way, I love either very, very bursty builds where everything just blows up instantly, or stacking a lot of damage over times. I don't like builds that are like attack base and hope that I crit, or attack base and slowly beat you down. I don't like those builds, especially in hardcore, because in my experience, the longer you're standing still or staying in certain areas that are death pits, you're going to lose your character. And so I don't like doing that. So any builds that are fast moving, either burst the monsters down so that they don't have a chance to cast, or stack up a bunch of dots and then run screaming for your life and hope that they die. Those are the 2 strats that I run, and they work. But with these new Act 9 monsters, they drop down comets from off screen. So it's brutal. I'm like, do I need to have a 48-inch TV to be able to see this fireball coming down? So it's kind of brutal now, but those are the builds I like the most.
I'd like to just point out that Perry here is a trendsetter, because after he did his Devouring Orb build, like a week later, I seen like every other streamer streaming nothing but Void Knight with Devouring Orbs. And they were like, oh my god, this build is so awesome. I love this build. I can't believe I didn't try this build out before. I'm like, you're playing Perry's build. They're like, yeah, I'm playing Perry's build.
Well,
Perry's build is awesome.
I'm not the only person who could like look at Devouring Orb and click on all the damage nodes, but I might be the only person who could look at Devouring Orb and then take off all the damage nodes, which is my current build that I'm playing right now. I'm playing the ethical version of Devouring Orb. I have as little void damage as possible, as little spell damage as possible. I took off all the damage nodes, and we're a damage over time Devouring Orb build.
See how I said at the start, at the intro, how we try to make things harder? Let's kick myself in the balls and then do it. Well, now it's ethical, so it's good. We can do it. That's how we. This makes the content harder, more enjoyable. You shouldn't be kicking yourself.
I'll have you know that my ZDPS damage over time Void Knight hit level 100, and that build is excellent. Turns out Abyssal Echoes slaps.
It's true, that ability does slap.
Problem is, in all these builds, some jerk has to ban 1 or 2 or 3 of the skills to run these builds on the tournament weekends. Why do you guys all gonna be sick, huh? Why are you all gonna be twisted? Every single time we're banning Nova and Lightning Blast and all this shit. I'm like, how am I supposed to kill bosses before they one-shot me? I'm half asleep on my keyboard. Stop taking away my single target damage.
If you think about it, they actually can't ban your basic attack, so you always have at least one option. You just like
punch the boss for 5 damage.
That just made me have a flashback to the Mage hardcore tournament where they banned Lightning Blast, and like
everybody have to talk about that.
Everybody kept dying at the beginning, including certain other people.
It was a hardcore Mage tournament, and they banned Lightning Blast. So like, technically, what you were supposed to do is like from level 1, you just punch monsters until you get to level 3 and unlock your next skills. It's like, come on, really? That's what the tournament's gonna be?
No, why would you do that? I thought you didn't have to. You didn't have to take it off your skill bar until you were in the arena. I thought that's
but like if you were being ethical, Brandon,
come on. I just ran through.
And banned for me.
Yeah, see, I just ran through to the first town and like opened the chest, sold everything, bought a 2-hander, and went to town.
Yeah, exactly. Hit you with this light post. Eat it.
So I need to clarify something real quick, because I've never had I don't think we've ever had like a League of Legends player on the stream here. So I've always said like Blade Dancer is like the class that everyone goes to if they love playing Riven and they love playing Zed. But like I need to double check this. Like is that are you like a Riven player? Are you a top laner?
No, I am a top laner, yes.
Okay. But not a Zed, not a flashy player. What's your main over in League of Legends?
Right now, Quinn. Well, not now. She just got nerfed, but it was Quinn. Because years ago I played ADC, so I was a carry. So the reason I played Quinn up top is all the pros and high-end players play tanks, and Quinn's melt tanks. So my whole point is to murder the lane, snowball, and then run around and kill everyone while they're not paying attention to what the hell's going on.
So there's no correlation confirmed between Zed and Riven players and people who are drawn to Blade Master.
I think the only correlation would be the fact that Blade Dancer is more flashy, and there is characters on League that are more flashy. If I know I can win an engagement, I'll do something flashy or exciting. But I won't risk taking a loss for my team. I've always thought about team. That's why I'm so excited for multiplayer for this game. I'm all about winning for the team. So I like to do flashy plays as well, but there's no correlation because I wouldn't risk losing the match. And in League, there's already so much toxicity that you make one mistake and people are ready to DDoS you back to the Stone Age. So for me, I don't take that risk. I'm like, someone's going to hack right into my router and that's it. So,
but at least they're turning off all chat, so it'll remove all the toxicity.
It's only your team that's threatening to kill your dog.
Oh,
but, it's fine. It's fine. It's all chat's turned off. My team's still telling me they're going to kill me in my sleep, but 50% of the problem's dealt with. Yeah.
So wait a minute. Did you say Quinn got nerfed?
Yeah. And their balance team changed, or at least that's the rumor. It used to be win rate and pick rate, as well as if certain things were OP with champions. That's how they used to do it. Now they're doing it where it's just win rate. And Quinn has one of the highest win rates in the champion pool right now. But she has a pick rate of all the champions of 1.8%.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, nobody plays her.
Nobody plays Quinn. And the reason is, the minute you pick Quinn, your team is already prepping to DDoS you. Already ready to kill you. The minute you walk in Quinn, you suggest, hey, I'm really good at Quinn. They're like, yeah, I'm really good at slitting throats while you're sleeping. That's the threats you get from minute one. So she has no pick rate at all, but she got she got nerfed because her win rate is huge, and that's because anyone that plays her normally is what they classify as a one trick. You play one champion exclusively, so you're really good at that champion. So they decided to nerf her by a considerable margin. So now I don't even know if I'll be able to play her in ranked at all. So technically I went through today, but I haven't had a chance to play a normal match yet. So
to answer your question, Perry, from my end, no, I don't play Riven or Zed either. I play Scion, so I play a massive tank. Which
he protects himself right at the pick phase.
Yeah,
his team likes him. My team hates him. Right at the pick phase, my team hates me.
So are you? It sounds like what you're saying. Like there's a small subset of people who play like one thing and they play it a lot, and you don't want the developer to balance around that subset of people who play one thing and play it a lot, right?
Correct, because they're nerfing something that they think is overpowered, and it is if you know how to play the champion. But the pick rate is so low, it suggests such a small amount of people play, you can nerf it, but it's not really OP. So you're hurting the what they call one tricks, people that play one champion, yet all the casuals is who you're really hurting. Because someone like me, I have enough games in with her, I'll still find out how to win with her. But all the people that play her every now and then, they're screwed. So it's kind of a brutal approach, in my opinion.
So how does that transition over to a company like maybe GGG or 11th Hour Games, balancing around streamers who play a whole lot?
How do you mean? Like to try to slow them up? You mean banning
stuff
that they
slow
might
them
find
up,
open?
or like to nerf the top builds, or like try to push out more content exclusive like that the streamers can get to? So this is something that happened in New World recently, right? So New World is like the new MMO game that came out from like the Amazon company. Yeah. And like people were like grinding that super hard and like no-lifing it. And then, 2 weeks later, people were like, oh, there's no content in this game after I've played it for 18 hours a day for 2 weeks straight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like maybe there's not enough content, but like you have to admit at some point, like there's not, you can't have the expectation of just like pumping out content so that streamers can have more content.
Oh, you can. That's why even though I'm complaining, even with the game we're playing now, I'm complaining that there's not enough content, and it's not really fair of me because there's more than enough content for someone that only plays on the weekends or a few hours during the week. So they're doing a great job. It's just brutal when you're a streamer because we do eat up content so fast. If they balance for us, they're in deep trouble, especially if they just throw any content at us. That's why I like the hard stuff, because it slows us up and you don't need as much.
Gotcha. All right, I like to hear that from you then.
In multiplayer, I don't know what you guys are thinking, but they better have some insane boss fights, kind of like WoW. You know what I mean? You get 4 seasoned players that are streamers that play 18 hours a day in a party. You better have some insane encounters, or literally we're going to all be sleeping at our keyboards, because literally the two of you can just grab your builds and run forward, and I could just run behind with a garbage bag and grab all the loot for us. I won't even have to play. The way the game is right now, like if the game, with the setup of the game right now, in my opinion, if the 4 of us get in a party with the content we have right now, 2 of us don't even have to play. Literally. 2 of you can just murder the content, and everyone else can just be loot monkeys that walk behind you and, oh, Perry wants this item, no problem, I got it for you, bud. Just keep going murdering everything. They need to make stuff way harder. Not that they need more content, way harder. Stuff that literally makes it where if we don't communicate, our group dies. That's my opinion. That's what I think they should do. I think they should go that route. Now, the problem is, and I've seen this in other games, if they go that route and they do it wrong, someone that's playing solo is in deep trouble. They'll make it where you almost have to have a party to do content. And that's kind of the way that Diablo made it. They made it where the harder content near the end of the game was more challenging, to the point without the god tier builds, you had to have a group. Some people like to play solo, or maybe they don't have friends or antisocial or whatever it is, so they want to play by themselves. And if you make the content too hard, then they're screwed. So it's a very hard balance between the two, and I haven't seen too many companies honestly pull it off very well at all. Even things like PoE and stuff, you can do group, but you don't need a group. 1 or 2 really good builds can walk into the party and just murder the whole entire run. So they need to find a balance between thinking about the single players, but still doing something that challenges 4 guys that play the game. And that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm excited for. We'll see some really cool builds. I want to see some, teammate mechanics, stuff like that. Because if they just do what they have now and just launch multiplayer and just throw some new uniques at us, what are we going to do? Well, are you guys excited for that? Like, I'm excited
that would
to
be
play
that would
with
be like
friends.
the arena and corruption pushing, right?
Yeah,
Like that.
which
That
would
is
still be
like the
good.
infinite scaling content.
Oh, that's true. Okay, fair enough. I guess just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being greedy. It just doesn't seem like enough. Like, how much can you really do that? Because they kind of have infinite scaling in Diablo right now. It still doesn't change the fact that after you've done 3 hours of pushing rifts, you want to just turn your computer off, and you know what I mean? Like, it's horrible. It just doesn't feel good at all.
So
I think that'll.
We are getting the dungeons content, which has randomly generated maps, which I think is going to help tremendously, because I don't know about you guys, but like I know the layout of every echo in the game. Mm-hmm. If I go into a mono, I know the layout as soon as I walk in. I just do, because I've played them all enough at this point. So I think stuff like dungeons is going to help with that problem, because the maps are random generated. They won't be the same maps every single time you go in. We don't really know what the scaling is going to be on dungeons yet, but
That's what I want. That's kind of what I'm getting at. And I guess we do have that with corruption and stuff.
Yeah, like I'm hoping it's another infinite scaling mechanic with dungeons as well. That would be nice.
It'd also be nice if it forced us out of just running all strongest builds and have to actually change our builds to fit the group. You know what I mean? Rather than just everyone load mass damage and just run screaming, torches lit right through the room. It'd be nice if it challenged us a bit more to actually have to work as a team so that we don't get more. Like, for example, I'm trying to remember, it was an old school game, but it was 4 player as well. And when one of your teammates went down, the boss or the elite monsters scaled up. Ooh. So even just working together, like, oh, don't die. Let me throw a heal on you, or you run and I'll damage them. Because the minute one of us drops, now it gets like a 25 or 50% buff. You know, and then another one goes down, another 50% buff. And that would be your extra scaling on top of the endless dungeon. Would be, if you have that idiot that always runs in the room and gets murdered in 4 seconds, it's just like, hey, Bill, can you stop doing that? Because this is making it a lot harder, you know what I mean? And I think that might bring another sense of challenge and working together as a group. Because right now, I just don't, I'm excited for it, but I just don't see how we jump in a 4-man group and don't just literally walk through what they have. I think the only stuff that will give us any challenge would be these OP Act 9 monsters that'll probably kill our whole group. All of us just fireball, we're all gone. So other than them, the rest of the content we just walk through. I guess really, really high corruption and stuff like that, maybe, or really, really high arena.
I was in one of the dev streams and they were talking about multiplayer a little bit. Mike was, and he was talking about one of the things that they were possibly looking at doing was when you're in a group, maybe giving additional abilities to bosses that aren't normally there whenever you're in solo play, to give a little extra challenge, or maybe give a boss a couple extra different modifiers to it, or have different rotating skills, kind of like the shade fight. He was talking specifically about the shade fight in general at the time. So, and I think what they want to do is they want to add more bosses into the game that are kind of similar, to where they can kind of flip and change as far as what skills and abilities they have. Maybe that's something we'll get with the dungeon. We'll get like a different boss type at the end of the dungeon, and it can have multiple different types of skills, and there can be multiple different types of bosses at the end of a dungeon. I have no idea. Have you guys seen any of the new news on the dungeons yet? You guys looked at that, Perry?
I don't think we've seen much information, have we? Other than like the October update?
Yeah.
That's the only one I didn't get around to reading yet.
Yeah, I know there's a couple things in there I'm going to take a look at after we get off the podcast tonight, because I'd seen it in the news feed, and I've been moving around a little bit. I've got some things that I've been taking care of, so I've been bouncing around from my place down in Wilmington back up here to Jacksonville. My mom's getting ready to move, so I've been like helping her get her stuff together around her house so she can pack up. She's retiring, so she's wanting to leave the state of North Carolina and go someplace else. So I've been dealing with that. So it's been a little bit hard for me to keep up with all the news and all the content that's been coming out.
Has anyone heard anything on what we're looking at for the next patch, as in timeline wise?
It said December, didn't they?
Yeah, like late November, early December, probably.
Now, is that going to be the multiplayer one?
No.
Or is that's still a ways down, right?
Yeah, this is we get what the new druid.
It's actually
form.
good. I'm actually happy about that, so that's good.
Yeah, it's like new druid form. They redid like Werebear and Spriggan graphically. They're redoing skills and stuff. So.
And the crafting update.
Oh yeah, and the crafting update.
This is a big deal.
Where I won't.
And legendary items.
Where I won't fracture an item at 95% repeatedly.
Well, you might still do that, but I don't know. Maybe it'll have a different color or something.
Look, it didn't happen to me on stream. It happened off stream, which kind of made me mad because I wish it had happened just for content purposes. But like, I did have like 3 straight 95% fracture on me earlier today. It was just like. All right, man, we're done crafting for the day. It's fine.
Fuel for rants.
I have a new tab that I've started in my like hardcore permanent league. Just like instead of YOLO crafting, YOLO trying to remove something off an item or just like finish off some kind of exalted item that drops. My new tab is just like stuff that I'm going to experiment with as soon as the crafting update comes out.
That's fair.
So like just random rings that are like good explicits but on the wrong base. Maybe things that have like a good tier 7 modifier, but like not synergistic the rest of the modifiers. Any kind of stuff like that. Just like, I don't know what the new crafting update is going to be, but if it's anything similar to the stuff that I have now, I guess I have some experiments to do later on.
Excuse me, Mr. Perry, with the YOLO crafting, I just watched you remove 2 modifiers off of an item earlier perfectly and then be able to craft on it. I don't want to hear anything about YOLO crafting.
You have the best RNG out of 100% of the shots that you don't take. You know what I mean? Every time you see me do something like that, you know that I've bricked like 10 items in the past.
You know that he has Notepad open. And hold on, let me just adjust the code.
I bricked so many items. I'm like, oh, this looks okay, and it's dead, gone.
What stat could I use on this item? Max roll, yeah, that looks good.
Man,
it's like, all right, there's 2 modifiers on this item. I just need you to remove, not that one. Great.
What is it? The South Park. All right, we're just gonna put your money in here, calculate this way, and it's gone.
that is me every single time.
Item bricks.
So I want to go back to, you were talking about them balancing for multiplayer and stuff, and this is something I've been kind of thinking about myself as far as like how game design works with like multiplayer and how it is. I think the way ARPGs are intended to work by the community is opposed to the idea of teamwork synergistic multiplayer, because most of the ARPG community, especially more of like the min max players, basically the people like us who are trying to maximize our builds, trying to maximize your own personal build doesn't work if you're trying to play a team play synergy type thing, because you have to sacrifice something at some point for the good of your group.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be your full build. See, the thing is, the advantage is in something like WoW, it's a fixed item that might drop from a specific boss. But in action RPGs, with it being randomized items, or at least some, you could farm two sets. In other words, you could farm for your primary solo, ass kicker build, and you can also still try to min max for your group, complete the task build, your farmer build for your playing with your friends. You could split it up. You don't have to make it where it's you're sacrificing yourself to help the team. You just split it into two, or at least that's what I did in the past.
Yeah.
That depends on how they set up the encounters, because if they don't consider that, or they don't consider it to be a big deal, or they don't want to hurt single player too bad, which I could understand, then it won't make a difference anyways, because you won't have to adjust for the team if they don't make the encounters harder. You know what I mean? We all just get our best builds. It doesn't. No, I don't worry about Grim going down because the monsters are going down. We're not, and we just walk through the content. They have to make it a lot harder than what it is, and we're actually complaining about how hard some of the things are right now. And yet, in my opinion, they need to make it even harder getting ready to go into multiplayer, which I don't know how they're going to set it up for new single play.
So
because if you set up your build for 4-man and that's the content you're pushing, how do you do solo when people log off for the night to go to bed? So
right. And so you were talking about like how they need to make content harder and stuff, and I don't disagree. And you mentioned something earlier where honestly, like, I think the lack of build diversity that's starting to develop in the game right now is why we can't make content harder, because people take their softcore glass cannon million DPS build into chapter 9 and they get one shot by something and they think that it's a fault with the game, when in reality it's a fault with their build, because they didn't build any resistances, they didn't get their cleanse belt or anything to properly prepare
yeah, they
for
just
it.
wanted to see a big number. Yeah, but here's the thing: you can create content without actually having to bring out new acts and new monsters. New content is also new builds. Build diversity can still create challenges, being it nerf, changing an item, altering how something works with something else, can still change the core of the game. Just making the changes to Earthquake Werebear can still change how a game goes from literally I mash a button and everything dies to I actually have to pay attention to what I'm doing. So that can still give us depth and balance and actually make things harder. But I think they need to bring out more builds first and then tweak them from there. That's what I thought this patch was going to be. That's what kind of let me down. Now, I haven't played it enough. Maybe over the last 2, 3, 4 weeks while I've been sick, you guys have found 10 new builds. But honestly, with the way it was looking like to me and the way it was advertised, I kind of got the impression that in the first weekend or in the first week, a whole bunch of us were going to find 1 or 2 builds that are, hey, this isn't bad, or hey, I could maybe tweak this and make it good. I just didn't see that at all. I just seen people trying the new stuff, like the new changes for Void Knight and stuff like that, which were amazing, by the way. But I didn't see any of those new implicits to the bases and all that making into new builds at all. Now, it might have happened since then. Like I said, I haven't been around to really know. But the fact I didn't see it right away was discouraging, because if they go that route, that might help us for multiplayer. That might help us for depth or challenge. Just tweaking a whole bunch of new builds, like 10, 20 new builds. That's a lot of content with very simple changes.
You didn't see people popping off with new builds 1 week after the patch, and that discouraged you?
Didn't discourage me like I hate the game or that I was done with the patch. I was surprised that people didn't go for it. Like everyone was playing the exact same things. I'm surprised that nobody said, hey, this dropped, maybe I can build that. I'm surprised that didn't happen. And
that's one of the things that happens in like a PvE game as opposed to a PvP game, right? So like if you're playing like you play League of Legends, so this is a perfect example for you. But like League of Legends is a PvP game, which means that there's a lot of room to like pick and counter pick. And if there's a new popular strategy that comes up, there's also going to be like the new popular, counter strategy that emerges after that. So like there's a reason for you not to play the same exact thing as other people. But like in a game like this, or even in a game like Path of Exile, like the popularity of a build is a reflection of like, is it fun to play? Is it flashy? Is it cool? Does it make me happy? That has a lot to do with whether people play something. So like just because people aren't playing a brand new build the first week of it doesn't mean that something new hasn't popped up since then. And like the build that we've seen. Oh, go ahead.
I'm about to say this, and I'm only going to say this one time, Perry. We have you to blame for the stagnation on builds because after everybody seen Devouring Orb, everybody started playing it for like weeks on end. So I don't
take no
hear
responsibility for that.
I don't want to hear that that the builds are stagnant because I know there are other builds because we've had Dread on here, and Dread had told us about 5 or 6 different builds that
you can play Ignite Cinderstrike. Yeah. That's new. It's fine. It's good.
So there are
way better than it used to be.
But like Chard was saying, I think the point is he didn't see anything new because everybody's seen you playing Devouring Orb.
Yeah, because it's like Grim, what you said there is exactly what happens in PvE games. If there's something that's fun and cool, like not everyone wants to be the experimenter who goes in the back room and fails 50 times and then finally walks out with something cool afterward. Not everyone wants to go through failing 50 times. And like sometimes you just want to play the build that's good, right?
I don't fault people for that. I probably putting it across more extreme than it was. I've been sick. That's the main thing that's kept me out, not the patch.
Oh, well, let's just stop being sick. Chard, come on.
I'm serious. But
I'm
the thing is, the patch, I don't feel like the builds are stale. I was more surprised because I honestly thought there was going to be a surplus right out of the gate. Not even from the bases, even from a couple of uniques and go, oh, I can build a whole build around this. I'm sure that's happened since then, but the fact that I didn't see it right away was surprising to me. Not discouraging to the point of not doing the patch. More even surprised when I was playing it myself that I'm like, I haven't really got anything that's got me super excited. That doesn't mean the content is bad. It's just, like you said yourself, for PoE or any of those other games, sometimes you want to play the most popular build or the flashiest build, stuff like that. So I was surprised that I didn't see that stuff early enough to get me excited to really go hard, if that makes sense.
I hear
on a more personal level.
I still haven't made time in my own schedule to play Frostbite Static Orb, and like that's a pretty new build, and it uses new unique items and like new interactions, and it stacks up ward, and like you can use the new Twisty Boy relic as well. Like there's some pretty big brain stuff that's popped up over the past 083 patch here.
Well, that's good.
And like I don't know, like when you say like the new builds haven't popped up, there's so many examples of like new exciting stuff that you can
I
do.
also said that I've been out and haven't played the patch.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
It's diluted. It's not like I've played 500 hours of this patch and I'm in the game. I've been out of the game. But the fact that in the first, I guess, week or two that I played, I didn't see as much. I found that surprising. If they're there now, then that's great. That's good.
I found about 3 people that have put out some really new builds in the community. Perry, you've been one of them. The other one has been Amarathi. Amarathi's put out a couple of new builds that were actually made my jaw hit the floor. One of them was his Shatterstrike build that he did where he was getting like 12 or 14k ward, which was ridiculous. Just absolutely loved watching Amarathi play that build. And then the other one was Dread whenever he redid the Warpath build. His Warpath build was... It went from looking like a crappy build to an okay build because like I knew exactly what Dread was talking about other people putting out guides on it with the 500 crits, and it was just terrible looking, and he was absolutely right. And his Warpath build did a lot better, so it was awesome. And Amarathi just messaged in chat and said 43,000 thank you for the ward. So he got up to 43k ward on that build, which is ridiculous. That is ridiculous numbers to be hitting for a ward build. So thank you, Amarathi, for getting us another nerfed build next patch.
Shine the spotlight on it.
Yes, we love you.
Just like Dredd said last week, every time Ward gets good, they have to find a way to nerf it.
Those zombies are giving you 20k. Get it out of here. Wait a sec. You can survive the Act 9 monsters that we have planned for you guys? Nope. Get the Ward out of here.
I had someone pop up in my Twitch chat recently saying that they didn't want to talk about how strong their current build was because they didn't want it to get nerfed. And the fact that Last Epoch is still in early access and that person has that opinion, like I don't know about you guys, but I guess I'd like to hear this. Like how do you feel about that sentiment? I don't want to talk about my build because I don't want it to get nerfed.
Frankly, that's why I've been playing off stream this past week, is because I've been playing with a build that is pretty busted, I would say, because you just see 7k crits go all over the screen, and it's with a solo golem, so I will say that. So, and somebody else gave me the idea for it, and they showed me their build, and I started looking into it, so I've been tweaking some things and playing with it. It's a lot of fun, but I can understand that sentiment of not wanting it to get nerfed because, yeah, the golem is just running around wrecking everything, and I'm running around wrecking everything as a lich too, so it's pretty fun. So some people might not want their builds to get nerfed.
Cynical, how do you feel about that?
I'm not sure.
Not wanting to share a build because you don't want to get nerfed.
I'm not sure why you're asking me this question. I play Tempest Strike.
You're nerfing your computer, so there you go.
All right, Charred, how about you? What do you think?
I'm on the fence, 50-50. I don't want to talk about the builds because I've seen builds literally get target nerfed and banned because of a lot of traction, YouTube videos, streamers, content creators that have played it, and it's all of a sudden gained popularity, and then everyone's playing it, and then it's dominating the leaderboards, and then it gets nerfed out. So part of me doesn't want to advertise it. Another part of me likes to talk with my chat and the people that I know and my friends and communicate and tweak out ideas and maybe teach somebody something that I know that they don't. That part of the game that I love, so I want to share my build. But if I'm worried that my thought process always comes down to, if I'm worried about my build getting nerfed, it's probably extremely busted, or I'm just really good at it. Because there is some builds where people are good at playing it and other people don't have the ability to play it very well. And then there's other builds where you can fall asleep or go do your laundry, come back, everything's murdered, and then just grab your loot and go, like the really, really OP builds. And if you tend to talk about those, they will get nerfed. And if you're playing them, just expect that they will.
I like your perspective on that too, because like that's pretty close to mine. Like so personally, I don't like building around things that are like that I know is a bug or I know it's busted, but like I'm intentionally playing a build right now that has as little damage as possible on Devouring Orb. And like when I make a recap of it, because I'll make a YouTube video at some point, I'm gonna say like, look, I have like no damage, I've none of this, none of this, none of this, none of this, and it still clears monsters at 200 corruption. And like, yeah, you know, something there should be changed. It's like I like talking about busted builds. This game's really
I want to talk about busted and
I want
regular
builds to work the way that the devs want it to work, and then I'll go bust them again.
See, what makes me uncomfortable is every now and then these developers, they have Bring Your Child to Work Day, and they give Billy the little Sharpie and they let him walk up to the whiteboard, and Billy starts jotting down some stuff.
He's calling me out because I'm waving a Sharpie around the whole time.
All of a sudden, right away, we get that Sentinel Trail of Fire Javelin for 97 bajillion dot damage, and that's what happens when Billy gets on the board. He's like, what if we have this guy chuck this thing, and if they don't die from impact, they'll burn to death. And they're like, that's right, Billy. And it ends up in our game, and just everyone plays it for the whole tournament, and that's our life.
That's also where the swimsuit Zach skin for League came from.
That's how we end up in that spot. I love talking about OP builds and regular builds, but every now and then you got that developer, he has that head injury, and all of a sudden you get some OP shit that should never have ended up in the game. Because you can't have most of the skills hit for 500 to 1,000, and then what if this skill hits for 5K? I don't know. How about not, Bill? How about don't put that in the game? We don't need a skill that hits for 5K when everything else hits for 500. So I like picking in the middle of builds. Make it harder for myself, or don't use that OP skill because I already know it's gonna get banned. Like for example, for Werebear Earthquake, I only played it for a little bit at the end because I just want to see what it was like because I was so new to the game. So I made the build, tried it a little bit, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty busted, and then put it away because I didn't want to spoil the rest of the experience of, oh, this is what it's like to just walk through the game without having to worry about anything, especially in hardcore. Like, oh, I can just blindly mash one button and everything dies. So
I'm just
like
happy. I'm happy that we have like big brain content creators and streamers and build creators who can find these busted things while we're still in early access. Like I'm glad that these busted builds are found. And like, listen, for me personally, I like
get it out of here.
I like that they get nerfed. I'm
Take
fine
the
with it.
Sharpie away and just get the kid out of there and get him a donut.
Fine. All right. Here, Sharpie's gone. Got it. I get it.
All right, guys. From all of us here at Last Week at Epoch, that's going to do it for us for this week's episode. We'd like to thank CharredHope again for being our guest on here. We'd like to thank you guys for watching live. Just as a reminder, the video will be going up live on YouTube on Thursday night at 9 p.m. Make sure you go by the channel and subscribe. And again, from all of us here at Last Week at Epoch, thanks for tuning in. You guys have a great night, and we'll catch you in the next one.